Thondi's feet ached like fire as she carried another heavy tray across the marble floor of Le Ciel Bleu, Boston's most expensive restaurant, where people paid more for one meal than she earned in a week. The crystal chandeliers sparkled above her head, and soft piano music floated through the air. But all she could think about was getting through this shift so she could send money home to Mama in Malawi. Her mother's medical bills were piling up, and every dollar mattered. She approached table 7 with practiced grace, balancing champagne glasses that probably cost more than her rent. The man sitting there made her pause for just a heartbeat. He was Korean, maybe in his early 30s, with sharp features and dark eyes that seemed to notice everything. His black suit fit him perfectly, and the way the other men at the table deferred to him told Thondi he was someone important. Dangerous, even. But when his eyes met hers as she set down his glass, something unexpected passed between them, a flicker of recognition, though they'd never met before. "Thank you," he said quietly, his voice deep and accent slight. Thondi nodded and stepped back, trying to ignore how her heart had suddenly decided to beat faster. She had no business noticing how handsome he was, or how his presence seemed to fill the entire room. She was here to work, nothing more. The woman next to him, a stunning beauty with perfect makeup and a dress that probably cost thousands, leaned close and kissed his cheek. "Jae-sung, darling, you're not paying attention to me," she pouted, her voice syrupy sweet. So that was his name. Jae-sung. Thondi moved to serve other tables, but she couldn't help glancing back at them. Something about the woman bothered her. The way her smile didn't quite reach her eyes when she looked at Jae-sung. The way her hand on his arm seemed possessive rather than loving. 20 minutes later, Thondi was refilling water glasses near the restrooms when she heard heels clicking rapidly on the tile floor. The beautiful woman from table 7 burst into the ladies' room, her phone already pressed to her ear. The door didn't close all the way behind her. "Tonight," the woman hissed into the phone. "I'm tired of waiting, Richard. We do it tonight. The papers are ready. And once he drinks what you're bringing, he'll be too sick to think straight. He'll sign everything over. And by tomorrow morning, I'll control it all. The businesses, the properties, everything that fool built." Thondi froze, her water pitcher trembling in her hand. Her mind raced. This woman was planning something terrible against Jae-sung. "I don't care if it's risky," the woman continued, her voice cold as ice. "I've played the loving fiancé for 8 months. I've smiled and nodded and pretended to care about his boring life. I've earned this money. Once he's out of the picture, nobody will question anything. They'll think he just got careless, maybe drank too much. You just make sure that drink does what it's supposed to do." The woman, Veronica, Thondi remembered hearing Jae-sung call her, ended the call and fixed her lipstick in the mirror, her face completely calm, like she hadn't just planned something horrible. She walked out past Thondi without even glancing at her. To people like Veronica, waitresses were invisible. But Thondi had heard everything. Her hands shook as she set down the pitcher. What should she do? Call the police? But what if they didn't believe her? Rich people like this had lawyers and connections. And what exactly had she heard? A vague conversation that could mean anything? Her manager would fire her for causing trouble with important guests. Still, she couldn't just let an innocent man walk into a trap. Thondi made her decision. She grabbed her order pad and scribbled quickly. "Your fiancé set you up. You are finished. Don't drink anything she gives you. You're in danger right now." Her heart hammered as she folded the small paper. This was crazy. This was so far beyond her job description that she could get fired, or worse. But if she did nothing, and something happened to that man, she'd never forgive herself. She took a deep breath and walked back to table 7 with another bottle of wine. As she poured, her hand slightly bumped Jae-sung's water glass, and the note fell right onto his bread plate. "My apologies, sir," she said softly, meeting his eyes for just a second, trying to communicate the urgency. He glanced down, saw the paper, and his expression didn't change at all. Slowly, casually, he picked it up like it was just a piece of lint and unfolded it below the table where nobody else could see. Thandi watched his jaw tighten. His eyes scanned the note once, twice, then lifted to find her across the room. The intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. He believed her, or at least, he was taking her seriously. Veronica touched his arm. "Darling, Richard just texted. He's bringing a special bottle of whiskey for you, that rare one you mentioned wanting to try." "How thoughtful," Jae-sung said smoothly, but Thandi saw him slide the note into his pocket. "Actually, I'm not feeling well suddenly. I think I need some air." "But Richard will be here any minute," Veronica protested, her smile slipping for a fraction of a second. "I'm sure I'll be back before then." Jae-sung stood, buttoning his jacket. "Excuse me, gentlemen. Veronica." He nodded to his companions and walked toward the restrooms. Except, he didn't go to the restrooms. Thandi watched from the corner of her eye as he slipped past them and headed toward the kitchen instead. Smart man. "Excuse me, miss." Veronica's sharp voice cut through the air. Thandi turned to see her staring with suspicion. "Did you give my fiancé something?" "Just the wine list, ma'am," Thandi lied smoothly, though her palms were sweating. "He asked about our selection." Veronica's eyes narrowed, but before she could say more, a man in an expensive coat arrived at the table carrying a gift bag. Richard, presumably, with his poisoned whiskey. He looked confused when he saw Jae-sung's empty chair. "Where is he?" Richard demanded. "Restroom," Veronica said tightly. But minutes passed, and Jae-sung didn't return. Veronica's face grew darker. She stood abruptly and walked toward the restrooms, then the front entrance, searching. Thandi's manager appeared at her elbow. "Table 7 is asking for you." Her stomach dropped, but she forced herself to walk over. Veronica stood beside Richard, both of them radiating fury. "Where did he go?" Veronica asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "I don't know, ma'am. Perhaps you said something to him. I saw you looking at each other." Veronica stepped closer, and Thandi smelled her expensive perfume mixed with barely controlled rage. "What did you tell him?" "Nothing, ma'am. I just served—" "She's lying," Richard interrupted. "Check the kitchen. He probably went out the back." Two of the men from the table stood and headed toward the kitchen. Thandi's heart raced. If they found her note's handwriting on anything, if they checked security cameras, she was in serious trouble. "I need to get back to work," Thandi said, trying to keep her voice steady. "You're not going anywhere," Veronica hissed, grabbing Thandi's wrist hard enough to hurt. "Do you have any idea who you're messing with? Any idea what happens to people who interfere in things that don't concern them? Let her go." The manager appeared, looking nervous but firm. "You're causing a scene, ma'am." Veronica released Thandi's wrist, but leaned in close. "This isn't over. I'll find out what you did." The men returned from the kitchen, shaking their heads. Jae-sung was gone. Veronica grabbed her purse and stormed out, Richard and the others following. The table sat abandoned, the expensive whiskey still unopened in its gift bag. Thandi's entire body trembled. What had she gotten herself into? She'd saved a stranger's life, maybe. But now she'd made enemies of people who looked like they crushed problems without thinking twice. Her manager pulled her aside. "What was that about?" "I don't know, sir. She just got upset when her date left." He studied her face, clearly not believing her, but not wanting to know more. "Clean up that table and finish your shift. And Thandi? Whatever that was, it better not follow you back here. We can't afford trouble with customers like that." "Yes, sir." As she cleared table 7 with shaking hands, Thandi found a business card tucked under Jae-sung's napkin, where only she would see it. On the back, written in neat handwriting, were just 4 words. "Thank you. Stay safe." But how could she stay safe when she'd just made enemies of people who clearly had no problem hurting anyone who got in their way? Thandi looked at the card, at the name embossed in gold letters. Jae-sung Hwang, Executive Director. No company name, no address, just a phone number. She slipped it into her apron pocket and tried to finish her shift, but every time the restaurant door opened, her heart jumped. When midnight finally came and she changed out of her uniform, Thandi walked to the bus stop, looking over her shoulder every few seconds. The night air was cold and the street was empty. Too empty. She heard footsteps behind her and walked faster. "Miss, wait." Thandi spun around, ready to run, but stopped. Jae-sung stood there, having appeared from a black car parked at the curb. In the streetlight, he looked even more handsome and even more dangerous than he had in the restaurant. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "They were looking for you. They know I helped you." "I know. That's why I came back." He stepped closer, and she could see genuine concern in his dark eyes. "You saved my life tonight. But in doing so, you put yourself in danger. Veronica won't let this go." "Who are you?" Thandi asked. "Who is she?" "Someone who wanted everything I have and was willing to kill for it. And I'm someone who just realized the person he trusted most was his worst enemy." His jaw tightened. "Thanks to you. How did you know?" Thandi told him about overhearing Veronica's phone call. As she spoke, Jae-sung's expression grew darker. "Richard," he said quietly. "My business partner. They planned this together." He looked at Thandi with something like wonder. "A complete stranger risked everything to warn me, while people I've known for years plotted my death. I couldn't just let them hurt you," Thandi said simply. "What's your name?" "Thandi. I'm from Malawi." "Thandi." He said it carefully, like he was memorizing how it felt on his tongue. "You need protection. Veronica knows you're involved, and she's vindictive. Please, let me help you. It's the least I can do." "I can take care of myself," Thandi said, though her voice shook slightly. "Can you?" Jae-sung gestured to the empty street. "She has resources you can't imagine. Money, connections, people who do whatever she asks without question. I'm not trying to scare you, but you need to understand what you've walked into. Then what do I do? Come with me. Somewhere safe, just until I handle this situation." Every reasonable part of Thandi's brain screamed that getting into a car with a strange man, even one she'd saved, was a terrible idea. But something in his eyes told her he meant what he said. And honestly, the thought of going back to her tiny apartment alone, waiting for Veronica's revenge, terrified her. "Okay," she heard herself say. "But just for tonight." Jae-sung nodded and opened the car door for her. As Thandi slid into the leather seat, she caught sight of her reflection in the window. She looked scared and small and completely out of her depth. What had she done? She'd passed a note to a stranger, and now her entire life was turned upside down. But as the car pulled away from the curb and Jae-sung sat beside her in silence, occasionally glancing her way with an expression she couldn't read, Thandi felt something unexpected alongside her fear. She felt alive. More alive than she'd felt in the 3 years since she'd come to America, working double shifts and sending money home and barely existing. Tonight, she'd done something that mattered. She'd saved someone's life, even if it meant her own life would never be the same. The safe house sat 40 minutes outside Boston, hidden behind tall trees, and an iron gate that opened only after Jae-sung pressed his thumb to a scanner. Thandi stared out the car window at the massive stone building that looked like something from a movie. This wasn't just a house. This was a fortress. "You live here?" she asked as they drove up the circular driveway. "Sometimes, when I need privacy or security." Jae-sung parked and came around to open her door, a gesture so natural she wondered if he even realized he'd done it. "You'll be safe here. Nobody knows about this place except my most trusted people." Inside, the house was beautiful in a cold, empty way. Expensive furniture, artwork on the walls, but no photographs or personal touches. It felt like a place someone stayed, but didn't actually live. A tall man in a dark suit appeared from somewhere, nodded to Jae-sung, and disappeared again without speaking. "Security," Jae-sung explained. "There are 4 men on the property at all times. You're protected here, Thandi. I promise." She followed him through rooms with high ceilings until they reached a kitchen bigger than her entire apartment. He gestured for her to sit at the island while he opened the refrigerator. "Are you hungry? You must have finished work without eating." "I'm fine," Thandi lied, though her stomach had been growling for hours. She'd learned to ignore hunger during long shifts. Jae-sung gave her a look that said he didn't believe her and started pulling out containers. Within minutes, he had food heating on the stove, moving around the kitchen with surprising comfort for someone who probably had people to cook for him. "You cook?" she asked. "My grandmother insisted I learn. She said a man who can't feed himself is half a man." A small smile crossed his face, the first she'd seen. It transformed him, making him look younger and less dangerous. She was a tough woman. Survived the war, raised 6 children alone, built a business from nothing. I learned everything important from her. She sounds amazing. She was. She died 2 years ago. The smile faded. She never liked Veronica, actually. Said she had empty eyes. I should have listened. He set a plate of japchae in front of Thandi, the glass noodles mixed with vegetables and beef smelling so good her mouth watered. She took a bite and couldn't stop the small sound of pleasure that escaped. "Good?" Jae-sung asked, watching her with an intensity that made her skin warm. "It's delicious. Thank you." They ate in comfortable silence for a while before Jae-sung's phone buzzed repeatedly. He glanced at it, his jaw tightening. Veronica. 17 missed calls. She knows I'm not coming back. What will you do? End it. Completely. I'll have my lawyers handle the personal side, and my security team is already investigating her and Richard. If they plan to poison me, there will be evidence. Paper trails, communications, something. He set the phone down. But that's my problem, not yours. Tell me about you. How does someone from Malawi end up serving tables in Boston? Thandi hesitated. She wasn't used to people actually caring about her story. My mother got sick 3 years ago. Cancer. The treatments cost more than we could ever afford in Malawi, but she had a chance if we could pay for the medicine. My older brother Chifundo works in Lilongwe, but it wasn't enough. So I applied for a work visa, came here, and found any job I could. That's incredibly brave. It's not brave. It's necessary. She's my mother. It's both. Jae-sung leaned forward, his eyes soft. You left everything you knew, came to a foreign country alone, work yourself exhausted every day, all to save someone you love. That's the definition of brave, Thandi. Something in the way he said her name made her heartbeat quicken. She looked down at her plate, suddenly shy. What about you? She asked. How does someone end up running whatever it is you run? My family has been in Boston for 30 years. My father started with one restaurant, then another, then import businesses, real estate, investments. By the time I was old enough to understand, we controlled significant territory. He chose his words carefully. Some of our business is traditional. Some is less traditional. I won't lie to you about what I am, Thandi. I'm not a good man by most standards. You seem good to me. You don't know me. I know you thanked me for water at the restaurant when you didn't have to. I know you noticed me when most rich people look right through servers like we're invisible. I know you came back to protect me when you could have just disappeared." Thandi met his eyes. "That tells me something about who you are." Jae-sung stared at her like she'd said something in a language he was only beginning to understand. Then his phone buzzed again, shattering the moment. He answered it this time, his voice cold. "What?" Thandi couldn't hear the other side, but she watched Jae-sung's expression darken. "When?" A pause. "How many?" Another pause. "Handle it. I'll be there in an hour." He ended the call and stood. "I have to go deal with something. You should sleep. I'll show you to a guest room." "What's wrong?" "Veronica filed a police report claiming I stole from her and that she fears for her safety. She's trying to make herself look like the victim before I can expose her." He smiled, but it wasn't pleasant. "She's smart. I'll give her that." He led Thandi upstairs to a bedroom that was bigger than any place she'd ever slept. The bed looked soft as a cloud, and through the windows, she could see the dark outline of trees against the night sky. "Rest," Jae-sung said from the doorway. "I'll be back before morning." "Be careful," Thandi said before she could stop herself. He paused, turned back. "Why do you care?" "I don't know. I just do." Something flickered in his eyes, something warm and surprised. "Thank you, Thandi, for everything. I won't forget what you did for me." After he left, Thandi showered and borrowed a shirt from the closet that smelled like expensive cologne and probably cost more than her weekly salary. She should have felt strange sleeping in a stranger's house, wearing his clothes, but instead she felt safer than she had in years. She woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of coffee. When she came downstairs, Jae-sung sat at the kitchen table with his laptop, looking exhausted but satisfied. "You're back," she said. "I told you I would be." He poured her coffee without asking, somehow knowing she took it with milk and sugar. "Veronica's police report won't go anywhere. I have security footage from the restaurant showing her and Richard meeting beforehand, phone records connecting them, and Richard's assistant came forward with information about the poison they planned to use. Apparently, he got nervous and kept evidence for protection. So it's over? The immediate danger, yes. But Veronica won't accept defeat easily. Neither will Richard or the people who backed their plan." He rubbed his face. "You should stay here a while longer, just to be safe." "I have to work. I need the money for my mother's treatment." "I'll pay you," Jae-sung said immediately. "Whatever you make at the restaurant, I'll double it. Just stay here where I know you're protected." "I can't take your money for doing nothing." "You saved my life. You can absolutely take my money." He smiled slightly. "But if it makes you feel better, help me with something. I have business contracts to review, documents to organize. My assistant quit last week because of Veronica. You'd actually be helping." Thandi studied his face, trying to figure out if he was just being kind or if he meant it. "Okay, but just until things calm down." That was 3 days ago. Now Thandi sat in Jae-sung's home office, organizing files while he made phone calls in Korean that sounded both musical and harsh. She'd learned he worked constantly, barely slept, lived on coffee and determination. She'd also learned he was thoughtful in small ways that probably didn't even realize. He made sure food she liked appeared in the kitchen. He asked about her mother every morning. He listened when she talked, really listened, like her words mattered. And she'd learned that every time their hands accidentally touched or their eyes met across the room, electricity sparked between them that had nothing to do with gratitude or protection. "I need a break," Jae-sung announced, closing his laptop. "Want to see something?" He led her upstairs to a door she hadn't noticed before. When he opened it, Thandi gasped. The rooftop terrace looked over miles of trees, the city lights of Boston visible in the distance. String lights hung overhead, and comfortable furniture created a cozy space under the stars. "This is beautiful," she breathed. "I come here when I need to think." Jae-sung sat on one of the couches, and after a moment, Thandi joined him. The night air was cool but not cold, carrying the scent of pine trees. "Do you miss home?" he asked quietly. "Every day. The warmth, the colors, the way people laugh in Malawi. Even the chaos and the noise. Here, everything feels so controlled and cold sometimes." She pulled her knees up. "But I can't go back until my mother is well. That's the deal I made with myself." "What will you do after? When she's healthy?" "I don't know. Maybe go home, maybe stay here. I haven't let myself think that far ahead." She glanced at him. "What about you? What do you want that you don't have?" Jae-sung was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. "Peace," he finally said. "A life where I'm not constantly watching for betrayal. Someone who sees me as just a man, not a bank account or a business opportunity or a threat." He turned to look at her. "You're the first person in years who looked at me like I was just human. You are just human. Not in my world. In my world, I'm either useful or dangerous, an ally or an enemy. There's no middle ground." His voice was bitter. "Veronica taught me that lesson well. 8 months of lies, every kiss fake, every word calculated. I'm sorry. Don't be. You saved me from worse than heartbreak. You saved my life." He shifted closer, his shoulder touching hers. "I can't stop thinking about that. About you. How you risked everything for a stranger." Thandi's breath caught. The air between them felt charged, heavy with unspoken things. "I couldn't just stand by. Most people would have. Most people do." His hand found hers, fingers intertwining. "You're extraordinary, Thandi. You must know that. I'm just a waitress from Malawi who got involved in something way over her head. You're so much more than that." When he kissed her, it was soft at first, questioning. Thandi's heart hammered against her ribs as she kissed him back, her free hand coming up to touch his face. He made a low sound in his throat and pulled her closer, the kiss deepening, becoming urgent and hungry. They broke apart, both breathing hard. "We shouldn't," Thandi whispered, though she didn't move away. "I know." But Jae-sung kissed her again, and this time she didn't protest. His hand slid into her hair, and she gripped his shirt, pulling him closer. Everything else fell away. The danger, the complications, the 1,000 reasons this was a terrible idea. All that existed was this moment, this man, this feeling like she was finally exactly where she belonged. When they finally pulled apart, Jae-sung rested his forehead against hers. "Stay," he murmured, "not because of danger or protection or anything else. Just stay because you want to." "I want to," Thandi admitted, "but this is crazy. We barely know each other." "Then let's know each other. We have time." He kissed her again, softer now, sweeter. "I haven't felt this alive in years, Thandi. You make me feel like something beyond my responsibilities, and my reputation actually matters." They stayed on the roof terrace until the sky started to lighten, talking and kissing and slowly learning each other. Jae-sung told her about growing up caught between Korean tradition and American culture, never quite fitting in either world. Thandi shared stories about her childhood in Malawi, the red earth and blue skies, the way rain sounded on a tin roof. As dawn broke, Jae-sung walked her back to her room, their hands still linked. At her door, he kissed her once more, gently. "Sleep well," he said softly. But Thandi couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, touching her lips where his had been, her heart racing with the knowledge that everything had changed. She'd come to America to save her mother's life and ended up finding something she hadn't even known she was looking for. She was falling for Jae-sung Hwang, And it terrified her almost as much as it thrilled her, because people like her didn't end up with people like him. That wasn't how the world worked, except maybe, just maybe, the world could surprise you sometimes. 2 weeks passed, like a beautiful dream Thandi was afraid to wake from. The safe house became their world, separate from everything outside. Jae-sung still worked, taking calls and video meetings, but he made time for her in ways that felt intentional and precious. Morning coffee together in the kitchen. Afternoon walks through the property. Late-night conversations that stretched until dawn. And the touching. Always the touching now. His hand on her lower back as they walked, her fingers combing through his hair while he read contracts. Kisses that started innocent and turned into something that made them both forget everything else. "Try this," Jae-sung said, holding out chopsticks with a piece of bulgogi. They sat on the kitchen floor because Thandi had declared the formal dining room too fancy and uncomfortable. He'd laughed and gotten plates, and now they had a picnic spread across the tile. Thandi took the bite, savoring the sweet and savory meat. "You're going to make me forget all my mother's recipes if you keep cooking like this. Then you'll have to teach me Malawian food. Fair trade. Deal. Though I'll need ingredients we definitely don't have here. Make a list. I'll have everything delivered tomorrow." Thandi shook her head, smiling. "You can't just snap your fingers and make things appear, Jae-sung." "Actually, I can. That's kind of the point of having resources." He fed her another bite. "Let me spoil you a little. You work so hard for everyone else. Let someone take care of you for once." "I'm not used to it." "I know. That's part of what makes you special." Hwaise set down the chopsticks and pulled her closer until she was sitting between his legs, her back against his chest, his arms wrapped around her waist. "Everyone else in my life wants something from me. You just want me." Thandi leaned back into him, feeling safe and treasured. "Is that so hard to believe? In my world, yes." He kissed the side of her neck, making her shiver. "I've been thinking about something." "What?" "You should call your mother. Tell her you're okay. She must worry." Thandi had been avoiding that exact thought. What would I even say? That I'm living with a man I barely know because I got involved in some dangerous situation? She'd tell me to come home immediately. "Tell her you met someone who makes you happy. That's not a lie." "You make me happy," Thandi admitted quietly. "Happier than I've been in a long time. But this isn't real life, Jae-sung. This is like a bubble that has to pop eventually. I have responsibilities. My job, my apartment, my mother's bills. What if it doesn't have to pop? What if we make it real?" Before she could answer, his phone buzzed. He groaned but checked it, and his expression shifted to something serious. "I need to take this." He stood and walked to his office, leaving Thandi alone with her thoughts and a chest full of confused feelings. Everything was moving so fast. 2 weeks ago, she'd been a waitress passing a note to a stranger. Now she was falling in love with that stranger, living in his house, imagining impossible futures. When Jae-sung returned 20 minutes later, he looked troubled. "What's wrong?" Thandi asked. "That was my head of security. Veronica and Richard are still making moves, spreading rumors, trying to turn my business partners against me, claiming I'm unstable, and they've been asking questions about you." Fear spiked through Thandi's stomach. "What kind of questions?" "Where you're from, where you live, who your family is. They're looking for leverage." He knelt beside her. "I won't let them hurt you, Thandi. But I need you to trust me and stay here where you're protected." "For how long?" "As long as it takes." He cupped her face. "I know this isn't the life you imagined. But until I've dealt with them completely, I can't risk your safety." That night, Thandi couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about her tiny apartment sitting empty, her co-workers wondering where she'd gone, her regular life paused indefinitely. She'd texted her manager that she had a family emergency and needed time off. But how long before she lost her job entirely? She got out of bed and wandered downstairs, thinking she'd make tea. But she found Jae-sung already in the kitchen, staring out the window into the darkness. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. He turned, and even in pajama pants and a t-shirt, he looked unfairly handsome. "Too much on my mind. Want to talk about it?" "Not really. I'd rather do something else." The way he looked at her made heat pool in her stomach. He crossed the kitchen in 3 strides and kissed her hard, lifting her onto the counter. Thandi wrapped her legs around his waist, her fingers tangling in his hair as the kiss turned desperate. "I want you," he murmured against her lips. "I've wanted you since that first night, since you looked at me in the restaurant like you could see through all my walls." "I want you, too," Thandi breathed. "So much it scares me." "Don't be scared." He kissed down her neck, his hand sliding under her shirt. "Be here with me. Just be here." They barely made it upstairs to his bedroom. Clothes disappeared between kisses, and then Jae-sung laid her on his bed with a gentleness that made her heart ache. He took his time, learning every inch of her skin like he was memorizing a map. When they finally came together, Thandi gasped at the feeling of completion, like pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. He moved slowly at first, his eyes locked on hers, one hand cradling her face. "You're so beautiful," he whispered. "So perfect." Thandi couldn't speak, could only hold on to him as pleasure built between them like a rising tide. When it crested, she cried out his name, and he followed moments later, burying his face in her neck. Afterward, they lay tangled together, hearts still racing. "That was," Thandi started, then couldn't find words. "Yeah," Jae-sung agreed, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "It was." They made love again as the sun rose, slower this time, savoring every touch and kiss. And again in the shower, quick and intense against the tile wall. By the time they finally emerged, both were exhausted, but grinning. "I'm never letting you out of this house," Jae-sung announced, pulling her back into bed. "Promises, promises." He kissed her shoulder. "I'm serious, Thandi. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But I'm falling for you. Hard. When I'm with you, I'm not the boss or the heir or the guy everyone either fears or wants something from. I'm just me. Do you know how rare that is?" "I'm falling for you too," Thandi admitted, "even though every logical part of my brain says I shouldn't. We're from completely different worlds, Jae-sung. You have all this power and money and history, and I'm just trying to survive and help my mother. How does this even work?" "We make it work. Together." He propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at her seriously. "I'll take care of your mother's medical bills. All of them. Every treatment she needs." "No," Thandi said immediately. "I can't let you do that." "Why not?" "Because then this becomes about money. About you rescuing poor little me. That's not what I want." "It's not rescuing. It's helping someone I care about. There's a difference." He stroked her cheek. "I have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes, Thandi. Let me use it for something that actually matters. Let me help the woman I love take care of her mother." Thandi froze. "You love me?" Jae-sung looked surprised at himself, like he hadn't meant to say it, out loud. Then his expression softened. "Yes, I love you. I know it's too soon. I know it doesn't make sense, but I do." Tears stung Thandi's eyes. "I love you too. I love you so much, I don't know what to do with it all." They held each other, and for a moment, the world outside didn't exist. No danger, no complications, no impossible obstacles. Just 2 people who'd found something real in the middle of chaos. But reality had a way of intruding on perfect moments. Jae-sung's phone rang, shattering the peace. He grabbed it with a curse, then sat up straight, his whole body going tense. When? He demanded. A pause. How did they find out? Another pause, longer this time, his face drained of color. I'll handle it. Double security here. Now. He ended the call and turned to Thandi, fear clear in his eyes for the first time since she'd known him. Get dressed, quickly. We need to move you somewhere else. What happened? Veronica knows you're here. She's coming. They had maybe an hour before Veronica arrived with whoever she was bringing. Jae-sung moved through the house like a man preparing for war, barking orders into his phone while simultaneously throwing essentials into a bag for Thandi. The security team appeared from various corners of the property, all grim-faced and armed. I don't understand, Thandi said, watching him with growing panic. How did she find this place? I don't know yet, but I'll find out. Jae-sung grabbed her hand. Listen to me. Whatever happens, you stay behind my security team. You do exactly what they tell you. Veronica is dangerous when she's cornered, and right now she's desperate. Maybe I should just leave. Go far away so she has no reason to come after you. He cupped her face, his expression fierce. No, don't even think that. We're in this together now. He kissed her hard. I won't lose you. Not to her. Not to anyone. Before Thandi could respond, the head of security burst in. Sir, we have movement at the north gate. 3 vehicles. They're not trying to hide. Jae-sung cursed in Korean. She brought an audience. Of course she did. He turned to Thandi. Upstairs. Now. Stay in the panic room until I come for you. I'm not hiding while you face her alone. Thandi, please. His voice cracked slightly. I can handle Veronica. I can't handle worrying that you might get hurt. Please, for me, stay safe. The desperation in his eyes convinced her more than his words. She nodded and let security escort her to a hidden room behind his office, equipped with monitors showing every angle of the property. As the steel door closed, sealing her inside, she watched the screens with her heart in her throat. 3 black SUVs pulled up the driveway in formation. Veronica emerged from the first one, looking like she was heading to a photo shoot rather than a confrontation. Her designer dress probably cost more than Thandi made in 6 months, and her makeup was flawless. But her expression was pure hatred. Behind her came an older Korean man Thandi didn't recognize, followed by several large men in suits. From the 3rd vehicle came Richard and 2 others. Jae-sung met them outside, flanked by his own security. Even through the camera, Thandi could see the tension radiating from him. You're trespassing, Jae-sung said coldly. Leave now. Trespassing? Veronica laughed, a harsh sound. I'm reclaiming what's mine. You ruined my life, Jae-sung. You had me investigated like a criminal, froze my accounts, turned everyone against me. All because of some lies from a waitress. They weren't lies. You plotted to poison me. Prove it. Veronica stepped closer. Oh wait, you can't. Because your evidence is circumstantial at best. Meanwhile, I have witnesses who'll testify that you've been unstable, paranoid, making dangerous decisions. That you attacked me verbally, threatened me, forced me to flee for my safety. The older Korean man spoke up. Jae-sung, I am disappointed. Your grandmother would be ashamed of how you've handled this situation. Uncle Dong-hyun, Jae-sung said, his voice tight. This doesn't concern you. So this was family. Thandi watched the man who shared Jae-sung's blood look at him with open disdain. It concerns me when my nephew makes a fool of himself over some African immigrant. Dong-hyun's words dripped with contempt. Breaking off an engagement to a suitable woman, hiding away with a nobody, neglecting his responsibilities. The family is embarrassed, Jae-sung. The elders are questioning whether you're fit to lead. The elders can question whatever they want. I answer to no one. You answer to family, to tradition, to legacy. Dong-hyun moved closer. This girl has poisoned your mind, made you forget who you are and what you owe to those who built what you enjoy. Don't talk about her, Jae-sung said dangerously. You don't know anything about her. I know she's using you. I know she saw an opportunity and took it. Veronica's voice was sweet as poisoned honey. Poor waitress meets rich man, spins a dramatic story about saving his life. Suddenly, she's living in his house. It's the oldest game in the world, Jae-sung. I'm almost impressed she played you so easily. Thondi's hands clenched into fists. She wanted to march out there and tell them all exactly what had happened, but security had locked the panic room from the outside. She was trapped watching this unfold. Where is she? Veronica demanded. I want to meet this woman who thinks she can take my place. She's not here. Liar. Veronica gestured to her men. Search the house. You're not authorized. Jae-sung blocked their path. This is still my property. Actually, Dong-hyun said smoothly, pulling out papers. As of this morning, I've filed an emergency petition with the family board to assume temporary control of family assets due to your compromised mental state. Until that's resolved, I have equal authority here. Jae-sung's face went white. You betrayed me. I'm saving you from yourself. Dong-hyun nodded to Veronica's men. Search. What followed was chaos. Jae-sung tried to stop them. His security moved to intervene, and suddenly there were too many bodies and too much aggression. Thondi watched in horror as a fight broke out, men grappling with each other on the pristine lawn. Through it all, Veronica stood calmly, a small smile on her perfect face. She was enjoying this. One of her men must have known about the panic room because he headed straight for the office. Thondi's heart hammered as she heard doors being thrown open outside, furniture being moved. Then the steel door shook as someone tried to force it. I know you're in there, Veronica's voice came through, muffled but clear. Come out, little waitress. Let's have a chat, woman to woman. Thondi stayed silent, her back pressed against the wall. Fine. Hide like a coward. But understand something. I've spent 8 months investing in Jae-sung. 8 months of pretending to care about his boring stories, his pathetic need for affection, his immigrant family trying so hard to be American. Veronica's voice turned vicious. He was supposed to be mine. His money, his connections, his name. Then you happened. You ruined everything with your little note, and your doe eyes and your sob story. Do you really think he loves you? Please. Men like Jae-sung don't fall for women like you. He's using you to get back at me. Once the novelty wears off, he'll realize what everyone else already knows. You're nothing. Each word hit like a physical blow, but Thondi forced herself to breathe through it. Veronica was trying to get a reaction, trying to hurt her. She wouldn't give her the satisfaction. When this door opens, and it will eventually, I'm going to make sure you regret ever speaking to him. Veronica's voice dropped to something cold and deadly. I'm going to destroy you so completely that you'll wish you'd never left whatever little village you came from. That's a promise. Then she walked away, her heels clicking on the floor. Thondi waited, shaking, until the sounds of chaos faded. Through the monitors, she watched the 3 SUVs finally leave, taking Veronica, Dong-hyun, and their people with them. But the damage was done. When Jae-sung finally opened the panic room an hour later, he looked exhausted and furious. Blood dripped from a cut above his eyebrow. You're hurt, Thondi said, reaching for him. It's nothing. But he let her examine the cut, let her carefully clean it, with the first aid kit from the panic room. His hands shook slightly where they rested on her waist. What happened out there? She asked softly. War happened. My own uncle betrayed me, sided with the woman who tried to kill me, all because he wants control of the family business. Jae-sung closed his eyes. They're challenging my authority, questioning my decisions, using you as evidence that I'm unstable. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am making things worse for you." His eyes snapped open. Don't let them win by doubting us. But what if they have a point? What if I'm just some distraction that's causing you to lose everything you've worked for? You're not a distraction. You're the only real thing in my life. He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. Veronica and Dong-hyun are working together now. They're dangerous and connected and willing to do whatever it takes to destroy me. But I won't let them touch you. I swear it. What do we do now? We fight back, together. He kissed her, gentle despite everything. But first we need to move you somewhere even safer. Somewhere they'll never think to look. Jae-sung, I can't keep hiding. I can't keep being the reason you're losing your family and your business. You're not the reason. They are. They chose greed over loyalty, money over family. His jaw tightened. And they're going to regret it. That night, lying in Jae-sung's arms, Thandi couldn't shake the fear that had settled in her chest like a stone. Veronica's words echoed in her head. What if she was right? What if this was all just novelty for Jae-sung, a rebellion against his family's expectations? What if when things got really hard, he'd realize she wasn't worth the trouble? Stop thinking so loud, Jae-sung murmured in the darkness. I can practically hear your doubts from here. I'm scared. Me too. He tightened his arms around her. But I'm more scared of losing you than I am of anything Veronica or Dong-hyun can do. You're my choice, Thandi. Every day, you're my choice. She turned in his embrace, finding his lips in the darkness. They made love slowly, tenderly, like they were sealing a promise neither could put into words. When it was over, they held each other as the night stretched toward dawn. Whatever happens, Thandi whispered, I love you. I love you too, more than I knew I could love anyone. But as sleep finally claimed them both, neither knew that the worst was yet to come. Because Veronica and Dong-hyun weren't just planning to destroy Jae-sung's reputation. They were planning to take everything, including the woman he loved. And they were just getting started. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to see how this story unfolds. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and whether you think Thandi and Jae-sung can survive what's coming. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter. The attack came in waves over the following week, coordinated and relentless. First, 3 of Jae-sung's biggest business partners pulled out of deals, citing concerns about his stability and judgment. Then, articles appeared in Korean community newspapers, questioning his leadership and suggesting he'd abandoned tradition for inappropriate relationships. Finally, his mother called. She's flying in tomorrow, Jae-sung said, hanging up with a grim expression. From San Francisco. She never leaves San Francisco unless something's seriously wrong. Thandi felt her stomach drop. Because of me. Because my uncle has been filling her head with poison. He pulled her close. My mother is traditional, Thandi. She's going to say things that will hurt. But I need you to remember that her opinion doesn't change how I feel about you. Maybe I should leave before she arrives. Make this easier for everyone. No. His voice was firm. Running away won't solve anything. Besides, she's going to have to accept, eventually, that you're part of my life now. But when Soon-ja Hwang arrived the next afternoon in a chauffeur-driven car, wearing a designer hanbok and an expression of pure disapproval, Thandi understood that acceptance was nowhere on the horizon. The woman looked at her like she was dirt tracked in on expensive carpet. So, you are the waitress? Soon-ja said in perfect English, her tone making the profession sound like an insult. The one who has distracted my son from his responsibilities. Mother, Jae-sung warned, show respect. Respect? Soon-ja turned her cold gaze to him. You dare speak to me about respect when you have brought shame to our family? Breaking your engagement without consulting the elders, hiding away with a stranger, allowing your uncle to challenge your authority. Your grandmother is turning in her grave. Don't bring grandmother into this. She would have liked Thandi. She would have been horrified. Soonja dismissed Thandi with a wave. Leave us. I need to speak with my son privately. Anything you say to me, you can say in front of Thandi, Jae-sung said. His mother's lips thinned. Very well. I am here to inform you that the family council has voted. If you do not end this inappropriate relationship and restore order to the business within 1 month, they will remove you as head of the American operations. Dong-hyun will take your place. Let them try. They will succeed. You have lost the support of the elders, Jae-sung. Your father built this empire with their backing. They can destroy what you've made just as easily. She glanced at Thandi with distaste. All for what? For her? A nobody from nowhere with nothing to offer but trouble? That's enough, Jae-sung said sharply. You will not speak about her that way. I will speak truth. This girl has no family connections, no education from prestigious schools, no understanding of our culture or our ways. She cannot help you in business, cannot navigate our social circles, cannot give you children who will be fully accepted by either community. Soonja's voice was cutting and precise. She is a pleasant distraction at best, a disastrous mistake at worst. End it now before you lose everything. Thandi felt each word like a slap, but she kept her face calm. She wouldn't give this woman the satisfaction of seeing her hurt. Are you finished? Jae-sung asked coldly. No. I want to speak with her. Alone. Mother! If she is so important to you, she can face me without hiding behind your protection. Soonja stared at Thandi with challenge in her eyes. Unless she is too cowardly? It's fine, Thandi said quietly, finding her voice. I'll speak with her. Jae-sung looked like he wanted to argue, but Thandi squeezed his hand. It's okay. I can handle this. He left reluctantly, and Soonja waited until his footsteps faded, before turning her full attention to Thandi. Sit, she commanded. Thandi sat, keeping her spine straight, and her hands folded calmly in her lap even though her heart raced. Soon, Ja studied her like a scientist examining an unpleasant specimen. I will be direct because I don't believe in wasting time. How much money do you want to leave my son's life? I don't want money. Everyone wants money. Name your price. I said I don't want money. Thandi met the older woman's eyes steadily. I love your son, Mrs. Huang. I'm not with him for what he has. I'm with him for who he is. Soonja laughed, a harsh sound. How naive. Or perhaps just calculating. Tell me, did you plan the entire thing? The note, the rescue, the way you made yourself indispensable to him? It wasn't like that. Then how was it? You want me to believe you saved his life out of pure goodness? That you have no ulterior motives? Please. I did not build a successful life by being foolish enough to believe in fairy tales. Believe what you want, Thandi said, feeling her own anger rise. But I know the truth, and so does your son. My son is thinking with something other than his brain right now. Men do that when a woman is new and exciting. But excitement fades, girl. In 6 months, in a year, he will wake up and realize what he has sacrificed for you, and he will resent you for it. You don't know that. I know my son. I raised him. I know the life he was meant for, and you are not part of it. Soonja leaned forward. You will never fit into his world. You will never understand the complexities of his business or the weight of his responsibilities. You will never be accepted by his family or his community. Every day, you will be reminded that you do not belong. Is that really the life you want? The words cut deep because they echoed Thandi's own fears. She swallowed hard. What I want is to be with the man I love. Everything else we'll figure out together." "Together?" Soonja scoffed. "You think love is enough? How childish. Love does not pay bills or build dynasties or protect you from enemies. Love is a luxury people like us cannot afford. We marry for alliance, for strength, for continuation of legacy. Jae-sung should be with someone who elevates him, not drags him down. I don't drag him down. I support him. You are a distraction, a weakness his enemies are already exploiting. Veronica and Dong-hyun are destroying him piece by piece, and you are the weapon they are using to do it." Soonja's voice turned almost pitying. "If you truly loved my son, you would leave before you cost him everything he has worked for." Thandi felt. Tears threatened but refused to let them fall. "If I truly loved him, I would let other people make my choices for me. That doesn't sound like love to me, Mrs. Huang. That sounds like manipulation. Call it what you wish. But ask yourself this question. What can you give my son that makes up for what he will lose because of you? What do you offer that is worth his family, his business, his reputation, his future?" Before Thandi could answer, Soonja stood and walked to the window. "I came to America 40 years ago with my husband. We had nothing but ambition and willingness to sacrifice everything for our children's future. I worked 16-hour days in our first restaurant. I learned English by watching television late at night. I smiled at customers who treated me like I was stupid because I spoke with an accent. I did all of that so my son could have opportunities I never had. And you want me to watch him throw it all away?" There was genuine pain in her voice now, and despite everything, Thandi felt a flicker of sympathy. This was a mother protecting her child the only way she knew how. "I understand your concerns," Thandi said carefully. "But Jae-sung is a grown man capable of making his own choices. Maybe you should trust that you raised him well enough to know what's right for his life." Soonja turned, and for a moment, her mask slipped. She looked tired and worried and frightened. "You do not have children, so you cannot understand. A mother's job never ends. We worry forever. We protect forever, even when our children wish we would not." Then the mask returned. "But my duty is clear. I will not stand by and watch my son destroy himself. I am offering you $1 million to leave Boston and never contact him again." Thandi's breath caught. $1 million. She could pay every single medical bill her mother had. She could buy a house in Malawi. She could secure her entire family's future for generations. $2 million, Soonja said, seeing her hesitation. "Final offer. Take it and go quietly, or I will make your life unbearable. I have resources you cannot imagine. I can have you deported, investigated, harassed. I can make sure no one in Boston will hire you. I can destroy your reputation so thoroughly that even your family back home will be ashamed of you. Or you can take the money and walk away with dignity intact." Thandi's hands shook, not from temptation, but from rage. "You think you can buy me? You think I'm so cheap that I'd sell the man I love for money? Everyone has a price. Then you don't know me at all." Thandi stood. "I'm not leaving Jae-sung. Not for your money. Not for your threats. Not for anything. And if you truly cared about your son's happiness instead of your pride, you'd see that we're good for each other." Soonja's expression hardened. "Then you have made your choice. But know this, girl. I will fight you with everything I have. I will turn this family against you. I will make sure that every day you remain with my son is filled with pain and difficulty. You think Veronica is your enemy? You have not seen what a mother protecting her child can do." The door opened, and Jae-sung stormed in, clearly having heard at least part of the conversation. "Mother, you've crossed a line." "I am trying to save you from yourself." "I don't need saving. I need you to respect my choices." He moved to stand beside Thandi, taking her hand. "Thandi stays. Either accept it or leave. But I won't tolerate you treating her this way." Mother and son stared at each other in a battle of wills that seemed to stretch forever. Finally, Soonja picked up her purse. "I'm staying in Boston for the month," she announced, "to attend the family council meeting where they will vote on your future. I suggest you use that time to come to your senses." She walked to the door, then paused. "Your father would be ashamed of you." After she left, Jae-sung pulled Thandi into his arms. She was shaking, all the emotions she'd held back finally breaking through. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry she spoke to you that way. She offered me $2 million to leave you." He pulled back to look at her face. "What did you say?" "I told her I'm not for sale." Thandi managed a weak smile. "Though I won't lie, for a second I thought about how many medical bills that would pay." "You could have taken it. I would have understood." "No, you wouldn't have, and neither would I." She touched his face. "Your mother loves you, Jae-sung. She's just protecting you the only way she knows how." "By trying to buy off the woman I love? By trying to save you from what she sees as a mistake." Thandi sighed. "Maybe she's right. Maybe I am costing you too much." "Don't." His arms tightened around her. "Don't let her get in your head. You are not a cost, mistake. You are the best thing that has happened to me." They held each other as afternoon faded into evening, both knowing that the worst was far from over, because Soonja Hwang was not the type of woman who gave up easily. And now they had made an enemy of the one person who could turn the entire family against them. That night, Thandi's phone rang, a number from Malawi, her brother Chifundo. "Thandi, what is happening?" His voice was frantic. "I received a call from someone claiming you are involved with dangerous criminals. They say you are in trouble, that you need to come home immediately." "I'm fine, Chifundo. It's complicated. But I'm safe." "Safe?" This person knew where Mama lives. They knew my workplace. They said, "If you do not leave Boston, there will be consequences for our family." His voice cracked. "Please, sister. Whatever you have gotten into, it is not worth risking Mama's health. She is finally stable. The stress of worrying about you could kill her." Thandi felt like she'd been punched. "Who called you?" They would not say. But they were serious, Thandi. I could hear it in their voice. After they hung up, Thandi sat in, the darkness, her mind racing. Someone had threatened her family back home. Soon. Ja? Veronica? Dong-hyun? It didn't matter who. What mattered was that they'd found her weak spot and were pressing hard. Jae-sung found her there an hour later, curled up on the couch with tears on her cheeks. "What happened?" he asked immediately. She told him about Chifundo's call. His face went dark with rage. "I'll find out who did this. I'll make sure they never threaten your family again." "How? How can you protect people thousands of miles away?" Thandi looked at him with desperation. "Your mother was right about one thing, Jae-sung. I am making you vulnerable. I'm giving your enemies ammunition to hurt you. Maybe I should go. Not because I want to, but because it's the right thing to do. The right thing is to fight for what we have." He knelt in front of her. "Do you love me?" "You know I do." "Then fight with me. Don't let them win by running away." Thandi wanted to be strong enough to do what he asked, but as she thought about her mother's fragile health and her brother's frightened voice, she wondered if love was really enough when the cost kept rising and the enemies kept multiplying. The evidence arrived via email at 3 in the morning when the house was dark and silent. Jae-sung's phone buzzed, and Thandi felt him tense beside her in bed. He sat up, the glow from his screen casting shadows across his face. "No," he whispered. No, this can't be right. Thandi sat up too, her heart already sinking. What is it? He showed her the email from one of his accountants. Attached were bank records showing money transfers from Jae-sung's business accounts to an offshore account in Thandi's name. Hundreds of thousands of dollars moved over the past 3 weeks. There were also screenshots of encrypted messages, supposedly from Thandi to unknown recipients, sharing confidential business information about shipment schedules, property acquisitions, and competitor strategies. I didn't do this, Thandi said immediately, her voice shaking. Jae-sung, you have to believe me. I would never steal from you or betray you. I know, but his voice was tight. But these records look real. The account is in your name, using your identification. The messages have timestamps matching times when you were using my computer. He scrolled through more files. They've been thorough. This is professionally done. Veronica, Thandi whispered. Or Dong-hyun. Or both. Probably. Jae-sung made several calls, waking up his security team and his lawyers. Within an hour, the house was full of people examining the evidence, all of them throwing suspicious glances at Thandi that made her feel sick. By dawn, the situation was clear. Someone had created an elaborate frame, and it was airtight. The offshore account existed. The money transfers had happened. The messages appeared to come from IP addresses linked to Jae-sung's home network. It's fake, Thandi insisted to anyone who would listen. I don't even know how to set up an offshore account. I barely know how to use the internet beyond basic email and social media. The council meeting is in 3 days, one of Jae-sung's advisors said quietly. If this information reaches them, they will use it to prove that you are unstable and compromised. They'll remove you and install Dong-hyun immediately. So we don't let it reach them, Jae-sung said. We have 3 days to prove this is fabricated. But proving a negative was nearly impossible, especially when the evidence looked so convincing. Jae-sung's technical team worked around the clock, trying to trace the real source of the transfers and messages. Meanwhile, whispers spread through his organization. The boss's girlfriend had betrayed him. She'd stolen millions. She was a spy, a con artist, exactly what everyone had warned him about. You should distance yourself from me, Thandi told Jae-sung on the second day, as they sat in his office, exhausted from lack of sleep. Publicly. Tell everyone you've discovered the theft, and you're handling it. It might be enough to save your position. I'm not throwing you to the wolves to save myself, but this is exactly what they wanted. They've made me into the proof that you're unfit to lead. She fought back tears. Your mother was right. I'm your weakness now. You're my strength, he corrected fiercely, and I will prove your innocence. But on the third day, the morning of the council meeting, Jae-sung's head of security brought devastating news. Someone had leaked the evidence to the council. All the elders had seen it, and they were calling for Thandi's immediate arrest and Jae-sung's removal. There's more, the security chief said grimly. We intercepted communications that suggest there's going to be an attempt on your life at the council meeting. Dong-hyun has hired outside people to make sure you don't walk out of that building. The room went silent. If you go, they'll kill you, Thandi said, her voice breaking. Please don't go. If I don't go, I forfeit everything by default. Jae-sung paced like a caged animal. Either way, I lose. That's when his most trusted advisor, an older man named Mr. Park, who had worked with Jae-sung's father, spoke up. There is one option. It is not ideal, but it may save both your lives. What option? Jae-sung demanded. Send her away. Far from Boston. Far from your business. Somewhere they cannot find her or use her against you. Go to the meeting alone and distance yourself from her publicly. Tell the council she deceived you, that you have ended the relationship. Once things settle, and we have proof of the conspiracy, you can reunite. But right now, Her presence is a liability that will get you both killed. No, Jae-sung said immediately. I won't abandon her. You're not abandoning her. You're protecting her. Mr. Park looked at Thandi with sympathy. If you care for my boss, you will see that this is the only way. Apart, you both have a chance to survive and prove the truth. Together, you will both die. Thandi saw the logic even as her heart screamed against it. He's right, she whispered. Thandi, no. He's right, Jae-sung. If they kill you, none of this matters. You need to stay alive. You need to fight them without worrying about protecting me at the same time. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Please, let me go. What followed was the hardest conversation of Thandi's life. Jae-sung refused, raged, argued. But eventually, the reality of the situation broke through his resistance. If he walked into that meeting with Thandi still publicly in his life, Dong-hyun would have all the ammunition needed to destroy him and the perfect opportunity to kill him. Denver, Mr. Park said, I have a trusted friend there who will hide her and keep her safe. No electronic communications, no contact that can be traced. When it is safe, we will arrange a reunion. How long? Jae-sung asked, his voice hollow. Weeks, maybe months. However long it takes to expose the conspiracy and neutralize the threats. That night, their last together, Jae-sung and Thandi didn't sleep. They held each other in the darkness, memorizing the feel of skin against skin, the rhythm of heartbeats, the sound of breathing. I love you, Jae-sung whispered over and over, like a prayer. I love you so much. This isn't goodbye forever. I swear I'll come for you. I love you too, Thandi breathed between kisses. Please be careful. Please stay alive. They made love with desperate intensity, trying to pour every unsaid thing into touch and taste and the joining of bodies. When it was over, they lay tangled together, both crying silently. I can't do this, Jae-sung said, his voice breaking. I can't let you go. You have to. We both know you have to. Thandi touched his face in the darkness. But I'll wait for you. However long it takes, I'll wait. At dawn, a car arrived to take her to the airport. Mr. Park would accompany her to Denver personally, along with 2 security guards. Jae-sung walked her to the car, carrying her single bag himself. At the car door, they kissed one last time, clutching each other like drowning people. Soon, he promised. As soon as it's safe, I'll bring you home. Be strong, she said. Win! Come back to me. Then she was in the car, watching through the rear window, as Jae-sung stood alone in the driveway, getting smaller and smaller until he disappeared from sight. Thandi cried the entire flight to Denver. When they landed, Mr. Park took her to a modest apartment in a quiet neighborhood, nothing like the luxury she'd gotten used to with Jae-sung. You will be safe here, he said. My friend Taraji lives downstairs. She is a lawyer and will help you if needed. Do not contact anyone from your old life. Do not use social media. Do not draw attention. Just wait. After he left, Thandi sat in the empty apartment and felt the weight of loneliness crush down on her. She'd never felt so alone in her life. Not when she first came to America, not even during her hardest days working double shifts. Because then she'd had hope. Now she had nothing but the memory of Jae-sung's face and a promise that might never be kept. Days crawled by with no word. She had no phone, no internet, no way to know if Jae-sung was even alive. Had he gone to the council meeting? Had they killed him? Was he fighting to clear her name? Or had he decided she wasn't worth the trouble? The not knowing was torture. 2 weeks after she arrived, Taraji knocked on her door. The woman was in her 40s, sharp-eyed and kind. Mr. Park sent a message, she said. Your man is alive. The council meeting happened. It did not go well, but he survived. He wants you to know he is working on proving your innocence and that he thinks of you every moment. Thandi broke down, sobbing with relief. He was alive. That was something. He also sent this. Taraji handed her a small box. Inside was a necklace with a pendant in the shape of 2 interlocking circles. Thandi recognized it immediately as Korean symbols for eternal love. Tucked into the box was a note in Jae-sung's handwriting. "Wait for me. I'm coming." She wore the necklace every day, touching it whenever fear threatened to overwhelm her. But the weeks stretched into a month, then 6 weeks, and still no word beyond brief messages through Taraji that Jae-sung was alive and still fighting. Thandi got a job washing dishes at a small restaurant to keep herself occupied and earn a little money. She couldn't just sit in the apartment going crazy. Every night, she lay in bed alone, remembering Jae-sung's touch, his voice, the way he looked at her like she was precious. Was he okay? Did he still love her? Or had the separation and the pressure made him realize his mother was right, that Thandi wasn't worth all this trouble? The doubt was a poison that grew stronger every day she spent alone. Then, on a cold afternoon 8 weeks after she'd left Boston, Taraji knocked on her door with a different expression. Excitement. "Pack your things," she said. "Someone is coming for you." Thandi's heart stopped. Jae-sung? Mr. Park didn't say, but his message sounded urgent. "Be ready to leave within the hour." Thandi threw her few belongings into her bag with shaking hands. Was it really him? After 2 months of silence and separation and not knowing, was he finally coming to take her home? Or was it Veronica's people having finally tracked her down? She stood at the window, watching the street, her heart hammering so hard she felt dizzy. Every car that passed could be him, or could be danger. When a familiar black car pulled up in front of the building, Thandi's legs nearly gave out. She watched a tall figure emerge, looked up at the building, and even from 3 floors up, even through tears, she knew that walk, that stance, that beloved silhouette. Jae-sung had come for her. Thandi flew down the stairs, not bothering with the elevator, her heart beating so fast she thought it might burst. She burst through the front door just as Jae-sung reached it, and they crashed into each other's arms with such force they nearly fell over. "You're here," she sobbed into his shoulder. "You're really here. I'm here. I'm so sorry it took so long." He cupped her face, kissing her desperately, like a man finding water after dying of thirst. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." They stood there on the sidewalk, holding each other and crying while Taraji watched from the doorway with a satisfied smile. Finally, she cleared her throat. "Perhaps you should continue this reunion somewhere more private." Jae-sung nodded and, without letting go of Thandi, guided her to the car. Once inside with the privacy screen up, he pulled her onto his lap and just held her, his face buried in her hair. "I thought I'd go crazy without you," he whispered. "Every morning waking up alone, every night trying to sleep without you there. It was torture." "Tell me everything," Thandi demanded. "What happened at the council meeting? Are you safe now? Did you prove I didn't steal anything?" "Better than that. We proved who did." He pulled back to look at her, and she saw the exhaustion in his face, the new lines around his eyes. He looked like he'd aged years in 2 months. "But let me start from the beginning. The council meeting had been brutal," he explained. Dong-hyun and his supporters had presented the fake evidence against Thandi, painting Jae-sung as a foolish man led astray by a manipulative woman. They'd called for his immediate removal and the installation of Dong-hyun as head of the family business. "My mother was there," Jae-sung said quietly. "She stood with them at first, agreeing that I had shown poor judgment, that I had let personal feelings compromise my leadership." "She was right," Thandi said. "I did compromise you." "No. Listen." He touched her face. "I was about to lose everything. Then Mr. Park stood up. He told the council that before they voted, they should consider that the evidence against you was too perfect, too convenient. He suggested that perhaps we should ask why Dong-hyun had been so eager to present this information. Mr. Park had done something brilliant. He'd secretly investigated Dong-hyun's finances over the previous 2 months, while Thandi was hidden. What he found was damning. Dong-hyun had been embezzling from the family business for over 5 years, skimming money from legitimate operations to fund his lifestyle and pay off gambling debts. When confronted with the evidence, Dong-hyun tried to deny it. Jae-sung continued. But Mr. Park had bank records, witness statements from people Dong-hyun had used to move the money. It was all there, impossible to refute. So he got caught? He got desperate. He started shouting that it didn't matter, that I was still unfit because of you, that I had betrayed tradition and family values. And that's when my mother did something. I'll never forget. Jae-sung's voice softened. She stood up and told the council that she had been wrong, that she had let her fear and her pride blind her to what actually mattered. Soon-ja had looked at the assembled elders and told them that her son had shown more integrity in defending someone he loved than Dong-hyun had shown in years of service. That honor meant more than tradition, and love meant more than convenience. She said that you risked everything to save a stranger's life, and that kind of character was exactly what the family needed, Jae-sung said, his eyes wet. Then she demanded that the council investigate how the fake evidence against you had been created, because she no longer believed it was real. That investigation had taken weeks, but eventually they traced it all back to Veronica and Richard working with Dong-hyun. They'd hired a team of hackers to create the offshore account, to fabricate the messages, to make everything look legitimate. But hackers left traces, and Jae-sung's technical team had finally found them. We have proof now, actual proof. Veronica, Richard, and Dong-hyun all planned it together. They wanted to destroy me and split what remained between themselves. He smiled, tired but triumphant. Instead, they destroyed themselves. What happened to them? Richard fled the country before we could file charges, but there are warrants out for his arrest. Veronica is facing fraud charges and is likely going to prison. And Dong-hyun has been removed from the family entirely. His name struck from all records. He has nothing now. Jae-sung's expression hardened. My mother made sure of that personally. Thandi couldn't quite process it all. So it's over? We're safe. It's over. The council voted unanimously to keep me as head of operations. I have their full support now, especially after everything that came to light. He touched the necklace she wore, the one he'd sent her. I wanted to come for you sooner, but I needed to make absolutely sure it was safe first, that no one would ever threaten you again. They spent that night in a hotel in Denver, neither wanting to rush back to reality just yet. They needed time to just be together, to reconnect after 2 months of separation that had felt like years. In the hotel room, they undressed each other slowly, relearning familiar territory that somehow felt new. Jae-sung traced every curve and line of Thandi's body, like he was afraid she might disappear if he looked away. I missed you so much, he breathed against her skin. Every single day. Show me, Thandi whispered. And he did. He made love to her with an intensity that spoke of desperation and relief and joy all mixed together. When they were both exhausted and satisfied, lying tangled in sheets, Thandi finally let herself believe that this was real. They had survived. Against impossible odds, they had made it through. What happens now? She asked. Now we go home, back to Boston. He propped himself up, on one elbow. But I should tell you something first. The restaurant where we met, Le Ciel Bleu. I bought it. Thandi blinked. You what? I bought it last week. Signed the papers 2 days ago. He grinned at her expression. I figured the place where we met should mean something. So I'm turning it into something new. A Korean-African fusion restaurant celebrating both our cultures. And I want you to help me design it. Choose the menu, everything. If you want to. Jae-sung, I don't know anything about running a restaurant. You know about good food, good service, and treating people with dignity. That's enough. He kissed her nose. Besides, you'll have the best investor in Boston making sure you have everything you need. This is crazy. Most good things are. He grew serious. I also spoke to Chifundo. I explained everything that happened and promised him you were safe. And I arranged for your mother's medical care to be transferred to a specialty hospital in Johannesburg that has better facilities. All expenses covered, of course. Jae-sung, you can't just... I can, and I did. Your brother was skeptical at first, but I convinced him I'm serious about you. About us. About being part of your family. He touched her face tenderly. I want you to go visit them next month. Spend time in Malawi, see your mother, reconnect with your home. I'll come with you if you want, or you can go alone. Whatever you need. Thandi felt overwhelmed. Why are you doing all this? Because I love you. Because you gave up everything to save me, and now it's my turn to give you everything you deserve. He pulled her close. And because I'm hoping that when you come back from visiting your family, you'll agree to stay with me permanently. As in, move in officially, build a life together. All of it. Are you asking me what I think you're asking? I'm saying that I want forever with you, Thandi. However that looks, whatever that means, I want it. He kissed her softly. But one step at a time. First, let's just get home. The next morning, they flew back to Boston together. Thandi watched the city appear below as they descended, and instead of the anxiety she expected, she felt anticipation. This was home now. Not because of the place, but because Jae-sung was here. At the house, which felt both familiar and strange after 2 months away, Thandi found that things had changed. Flowers filled every room, clearly arranged while they were flying back. A new picture sat on the mantel, one of her and Jae-sung that his security team must have taken during their first week together, both of them laughing about something. When did you have time to do all this? She asked. I've been planning your homecoming for 3 weeks, since the moment I knew I could finally bring you back safely. He wrapped his arms around her from behind. Welcome home, Thandi. Home. Yes, that's exactly what it felt like. That evening, Soonja came to visit. Thandi tensed as the older woman entered, remembering their last encounter. But Soonja's expression was different now. Softer, somehow. More open. I owe you an apology, Soonja said without preamble. I treated you terribly because I was afraid. Afraid my son was making a mistake. Afraid of losing him. Afraid of change. I let that fear turn me into someone cruel. I am sorry. Thandi didn't know what to say. I understand you were protecting your son. I was trying to. But real protection means supporting his happiness, not controlling his choices. Soonja looked at Jae-sung with obvious love. He is happier with you than I have seen him in years. That matters more than tradition or my pride. She turned back to Thandi. If you are willing, I would like to start again. To know you properly, not as a threat, but as the woman who saved my son's life and captured his heart. I'd like that, Thandi said sincerely. Good. Then you will both come to dinner at my hotel tomorrow. I am staying in Boston another week, and I wish to spend time getting to know you. Really know you. Soonja actually smiled, and it transformed her face. My son tells me you are planning a restaurant. I may have some ideas to contribute, if you are interested. I did run restaurants for 30 years. After she left, Jae-sung pulled Thandi into his arms with a laugh. I think that's the closest my mother has ever come to admitting she was completely wrong about something. She's trying. That's what matters. She's not the only one trying. I am too. Trying to be worthy of you. He tilted her face up. Thank you for waiting for me. Thank you for believing we could survive this. Always, Thandi promised. I'll always believe in us. That night, lying in bed together in the house that felt like home, Thandi thought about how far they'd come in such a short time. From a desperate note passed in a restaurant to this moment of peace and possibility. It had been terrifying and difficult and painful, but somehow, impossibly, they had made it through. What are you thinking about? Jae-sung asked sleepily. Fairy tales, Thandi said. How everyone says they don't exist. But maybe they do. Maybe we just have to fight for them. Then we'll keep fighting, he murmured, pulling her closer. For as long as it takes. And wrapped in his arms, safe and loved and home at last, Thandi finally let herself believe in the possibility of happily ever after. Thandi woke to sunlight streaming through familiar windows and the scent of coffee drifting up from the kitchen. For a moment, still fuzzy with sleep, she forgot where she was. Then Jae-sung's arm tightened around her waist, and reality came flooding back in the best possible way. She was home, in Boston, in their bed. After 2 months of separation that had felt like dying slowly, they were finally together again. Stop thinking so loud, Jae-sung mumbled against her shoulder. It's too early for thoughts. Thandi smiled and turned in his arms to face him. His hair was messy, and he had pillow creases on his cheek, and he was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. I'm not thinking. I'm just happy. He opened his eyes and smiled, that real smile that still made her heart skip beats. Good. That's my only job now. Keeping you happy. He kissed her slowly, morning breath and all, because they were past the point of caring about things like that. What do you want to do today? Everything. Nothing. I don't care as long as we're together. They stayed in bed longer than either had stayed in bed in months, just talking and touching and existing in the same space. Eventually, hunger drove them downstairs, where they made breakfast together in comfortable silence, moving around each other with the ease of people who fit. Over coffee, Jae-sung grew more serious. I need to talk to you about something. Thandi's stomach clenched. That sounds ominous. It's not bad. Actually, I hope it's good. He took her hand. The family council wants to meet you, officially. They've requested your presence at dinner this weekend, so they can, in my mother's words, properly welcome you to the family. Welcome me? After everything? After everything, they understand that you're important to me, and that you showed integrity when tested. He squeezed her fingers. I know it's intimidating. There will be about 20 people, all the elders and senior family members. They'll ask questions. They'll want to know your intentions. But I'll be right there beside you. What if they decide they don't approve after all? Then they don't approve, but that won't change us. His voice was firm. I'm done letting other people dictate my life, Thandi. You and I make our own choices now. This dinner is a courtesy, not a request for permission. The confidence in his voice made her believe him. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Soon Ja, in her new role as ally rather than enemy, took Thandi shopping for an appropriate dress for the dinner. It felt surreal walking through expensive boutiques with the woman who had offered her money to disappear just weeks ago. Try this one, Soon-ja said, holding up a beautiful emerald green dress that somehow managed to be both elegant and modern. Thandi emerged from the dressing room, and Soon-ja's eyes softened. Perfect. It brings out the warmth in your skin tone, and the color represents growth and harmony in Korean culture. The elders will notice and appreciate the gesture. You really know how to play this game, Thandi observed. I have been playing it for 40 years. Now I teach you, so you do not walk into battles unarmed. Soonja adjusted the dress slightly. The elders will test you. They will ask about your family, your education, your understanding of our culture. Some will be kind, some less so. You must be respectful, but not weak, gracious, but not spineless. Show them you are strong enough to stand beside my son. What if I'm not? You are. Soonja met her eyes in the mirror. You faced down Veronica, survived my cruelty, endured 2 months of separation without breaking. You are stronger than you know, Thandi. Now you just show them. The dinner was held at a private room in one of the family's restaurants, a beautiful space with traditional Korean decorations mixed with modern elegance. When Thandi walked in on Jae-sung's arm, wearing the green dress and the necklace he'd given her, she felt every pair of eyes turn to assess her. The elders sat at a long table, ranging from their 50s to their 80s, all dressed formally and wearing expressions that gave nothing away. Soonja sat near the head of the table and nodded encouragingly when Thandi caught her eye. Everyone, Jae-sung said clearly. This is Thandi, the woman I told you about, the one who saved my life and changed everything. An older man at the head of the table, whom Thandi recognized as Elder Kim, the most senior council member, studied her with sharp eyes. Sit, please. We have many questions. What followed was the most nerve-wracking meal of Thandi's life. Between courses of delicious Korean food, the elders asked her everything. Where she came from, why she came to America, what her family did, what her education was, what her intentions were toward Jae-sung. She answered honestly but carefully, following Soonja's advice to be respectful without being weak. When one elder suggested that she must be overwhelmed by the wealth and power of the family, Thandi met his eyes steadily. I've been overwhelmed by many things in my life, sir. Poverty, sickness, fear. Wealth and power are just circumstances. What overwhelms me about your family is the strength and resilience it took to build something lasting in a foreign country. That deserves respect, not intimidation. Several elders nodded approvingly. Another elder, a woman with gray hair and kind eyes, asked, What do you bring to my great-nephew, child? He has money, power, status. What does a waitress from Africa offer him? Thandi took a breath. Honesty. Loyalty. Love that has nothing to do with what he owns and everything to do with who he is. I bring him a partner who sees him as a man, not a title. Someone who will stand with him when things are hard, not just when they're easy. I can't offer business connections or social status, but I can offer my whole heart. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes, the woman agreed with a small smile. Sometimes, that is everything. As the dinner progressed, Thandi felt the atmosphere shift from interrogation to something warmer. The elders began sharing stories about Jae-sung as a child, making him groan with embarrassment and making Thandi laugh. They asked about Malawian culture with genuine curiosity. They even discussed the restaurant idea, offering advice and connections. By the time dessert arrived, Thandi realized something surprising. These people weren't her enemies. They were just a family being protective of one of their own, and now they were cautiously opening the door to let her in. Elder Kim raised his glass. To Thandi, who showed courage when it mattered most. You are welcome in this family. May you and Jae-sung build something strong together. Everyone drank, and Thandi felt tears prick her eyes. She'd been accepted. After everything, she'd actually been accepted. On the drive home, Jae-sung couldn't stop grinning. You were amazing. I've never seen Elder Kim smile that much at anyone. Your mother coached me well. My mother has clearly decided you're the daughter she never had. She told me earlier that she's already planning to visit Malawi with us next month to meet your family. He laughed at Thandi's expression. I know. I couldn't believe it either. Back at the house, they celebrated privately in the way they both preferred, with slow kisses that led to eager touching that led to them barely making it upstairs before clothes started disappearing. In bed afterward, wrapped around each other in the darkness, Jae-sung said quietly, "I have something for you." He reached over to the nightstand and pulled out a small box. Thondi's heart stuttered. "Before you panic, it's not what you think. Not yet, anyway." He opened the box to reveal a key. "This is the key to our house. Your house. I want you to move in officially, not just as someone staying here for safety. I want this to be your home because you choose it, because you want to be here with me." "I do want that," Thondi said softly. "So much." "Then it's settled. We'll go get your things from your apartment tomorrow, all of them. And we'll turn that empty guest room into whatever you want. An office, a studio, a library, anything." "A library sounds perfect," he kissed her temple. "Then, a library. It is." Lying there, Thondi thought about how impossibly far she'd come. From a scared girl in Malawi trying to save her mother, to an exhausted waitress in Boston just trying to survive, to this moment of warmth and safety and belonging. The road had been terrifying and painful, but somehow worth every step. "What are you thinking now?" Jae-sung asked, his voice already drowsy. "That I love you, that I'm happy, that I can't believe this is my life." "Believe it. This is just the beginning, Thondi. We have so much more ahead of us." And as she drifted off to sleep in his arms, Thondi finally let herself believe in the impossible. That a waitress from Malawi and a Korean businessman from Boston could build something real and lasting. That love could survive betrayal and separation and every obstacle thrown in its path. That sometimes, against all odds, fairy tales actually did come true. 6 months later, on a perfect spring morning, Thondi stood in front of a mirror, looking at herself in 2 different wedding dresses and trying not to cry from overwhelming emotion. The first dress was a traditional Korean hanbok, cream-colored silk with delicate embroidery of flowers and birds, the long skirt flowing around her like water. The second was a vibrant chitenje in sunset colors, wrapped and styled in traditional Malawian fashion, the fabric bright and bold and beautiful. "You look like a queen," Soonja said from behind her, adjusting the hanbok's jacket. "My son is a lucky man." "I'm the lucky one," Thondi said, her voice thick. Soonja met her eyes in the mirror. "You are both lucky. That is how good marriages work. Now stop crying before you ruin your makeup. We have a wedding to finish." The ceremony was being held in the garden of the safe house that had become their home, the place where their love story had truly begun. White chairs filled the lawn, and flowers bloomed everywhere, a mix of Korean and African varieties that represented their blended lives. Guests had flown in from all over the world. Thondi's mother sat in the front row, healthy and radiant after months of treatment, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. Beside her sat Chifundo, who had arrived 3 days ago and immediately bonded with Jae-sung over their shared protectiveness toward Thondi. The family council elders occupied several rows, dressed formally and looking pleased. Employees from both their restaurant ventures filled other seats, along with friends they'd made along the way. Even Mr. Park was there, the man who had helped save both their lives with his quiet investigation and unwavering loyalty. "Ready?" Soonja asked. Thondi took a deep breath. "Ready." The ceremony was beautiful in its blend of traditions. A Korean officiant performed the traditional elements, while incorporating Malawian blessings that Thondi's mother had taught them. They bowed to the elders in Korean tradition, then performed a Malawian unity ritual involving the sharing of water from 2 calabashes poured into one. When Jae-sung saw Thondi walking toward him in the hanbok, his eyes filled with tears. He stood there in his traditional Korean wedding attire, looking handsome and nervous, and so full of love that Thandi's heart felt too big for her chest. "You're beautiful," he whispered when she reached him. "So are you." They said their vows in both English and Korean, promising forever in words that felt inadequate for the depth of what they meant. When the officiant pronounced them married, Jae-sung kissed her with enough enthusiasm to make the guests cheer and her mother pretend to be scandalized. For the reception, Thandi changed into the chitenje, and the look on Jae-sung's face when he saw her in the colors of her homeland made her laugh with joy. They had their first dance to a song that mixed Korean and African rhythms, and it was chaotic and perfect and utterly them. During dinner, Elder Kim stood to give a toast. When Jae-sung first told us about this woman who had saved his life, I admit I was skeptical. How could a stranger show such courage? How could love develop so quickly? But watching them these past months, I understand. Real love is not about time or circumstances. It is about seeing someone's true heart and choosing them anyway. Thandi and Jae-sung, you have shown this family what real partnership looks like. May your marriage be long and full of joy. Everyone raised their glasses, and Thandi caught Soonja's eye across the room. Her mother-in-law smiled and nodded, and in that gesture was acceptance and approval and even affection. Later, Thandi's mother pulled her aside for a private moment. "My daughter, I am so proud of you. You came to this country to save me, and instead you found yourself. You found strength I always knew was inside you, and you found a man who sees how precious you are. I learned strength from you, Mama. You never gave up fighting, even when things seemed hopeless. That is what we do. We fight for those we love." Her mother touched the necklace Jae-sung had given Thandi so long ago, the one she still wore every day. "This man loves you with his whole heart. I see it in how he looks at you, how he speaks about you. You chose well." "He chose me first," Thandi said. "I just chose him back." As evening fell and lights strung through the trees began to glow, Jae-sung pulled Thandi away from the crowd to the rooftop terrace where they'd shared their first kiss all those months ago. "Happy?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind, as they looked out over the garden full of celebrating people. "So happy I don't have words for it." "Me too." He kissed her neck. "I have a surprise for you." "Well, another one. The honeymoon isn't just to Malawi like we planned." "What do you mean?" "I mean we're spending 2 weeks in Malawi visiting your family and your homeland. Then we're spending 2 weeks in Korea, so you can see where my family comes from. Then we're spending a week in Paris, because you mentioned once that you'd always wanted to see it, but thought you never would." He turned her to face him. "I want to show you the world, Thandi. All of it. Everything you dreamed about but didn't think you could have." "Jae-sung, that's too much." "It's not nearly enough. I'd give you everything if I could." "You already have. You've given me a home, a family, a future I never imagined possible." She touched his face. "You've given me yourself, and that's more than enough." They kissed as fireworks someone had secretly arranged began exploding over the garden, making their guests gasp and cheer. When they finally pulled apart, both were laughing. "Show off," Thandi accused. "Always. For you, always." They rejoined the party and danced until late into the night. Thandi danced with Elder Kim, who was surprisingly light on his feet. She danced with Chifundo, who whispered that he approved of her choice and that their father would have been proud. She danced with Soonja, who held her tight for a moment and said simply, "Welcome to our family, daughter." But her favorite dance was the last one, when most guests had left and only close family remained. Jae-sung pulled her close as a slow song played, and they swayed together under the stars. I keep thinking about that night in the restaurant, Jae-sung said softly. How if you had decided to stay silent, to not get involved, none of this would have happened. I'd probably be dead, or at least still trapped in a life that was slowly killing me in other ways. I couldn't stay silent. Something inside me just knew I had to help you. That something was your beautiful, brave heart, the same heart that fought for us when everyone said we were impossible, the same heart that waited for me during those horrible months apart. He stopped dancing to look at her seriously. I promise you, Thandi, I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret that choice, making sure you're as happy as you've made me. I could never regret it, not for a second. They kissed again, and this time it tasted like forever, like promises kept and futures bright with possibility. The next morning, they flew to Malawi for the first part of their honeymoon. Jae-sung met Thandi's extended family, all of whom descended on them with joy and curiosity and endless questions. He ate in Sima and Chambo, learned a few words in Chichewa, and sat with Thandi's mother, hearing stories about his wife's childhood that made him fall even more in love. They visited the village where Thandi had grown up, walking red dirt roads and seeing the places that had shaped her. Jae-sung held her hand and listened as she pointed out her old school, her best friend's house, the tree she used to climb when she needed to think. "This is where I'm from," she said, looking out over the landscape that still felt like home even after years away. "This is the soil that made me." "It's beautiful," Jae-sung said sincerely. "Thank you for sharing it with me." In Korea 2 weeks later, Thandi met Jae-sung's extended family and learned about his culture from the inside. She visited his grandmother's grave with him and left flowers, thanking the woman she'd never met for raising such a good man. She ate kimchi and learned to bow properly and started picking up Korean phrases that made Soonja beam with pride. "You are a natural," Soonja declared, after Thandi successfully navigated a formal family dinner. "Some people study for years and never understand our culture like you do." "That's because I'm learning it for love, not for show," Thandi said. "I want to understand the things that shaped Jae-sung. They're part of who he is." In Paris, they were just tourists, wandering streets hand in hand, eating pastries and visiting museums and making love in a hotel room with a view of the Eiffel Tower. No family obligations, no business concerns, just two people in love exploring the world together. "This is perfect," Thandi sighed one evening as they sat at a cafe watching people pass by. "This is just the beginning," Jae-sung corrected. "We have a whole lifetime of perfect moments ahead of us." When they finally returned to Boston, to the house that was truly home, now they found that their restaurant had opened in their absence. Le Nouveau Soul, the name they'd chosen together, was already getting rave reviews for its innovative fusion of Korean and African cuisines. "We should probably go check on it," Jae-sung said, reading the reviews on his phone. "Or we could stay here for another few hours," Thandi suggested, pulling him toward the bedroom. "The restaurant will still be there later." "I like how you think." They made love in the afternoon sunshine, taking their time because they had all the time in the world now. No enemies chasing them, no families trying to separate them, no obstacles left to overcome. Just two people who had fought their way to happiness and now got to enjoy it. Afterward, lying tangled together, Jae-sung said quietly, "I want to have a baby with you." Thandi's heart skipped. "Yeah? Yeah, not right now, necessarily. But soon. I want to see you round with our child. I want to teach them both our languages and both our cultures. I want to build a family with you, Thandi. A real family based on love and choice, not obligation and tradition. I want that too," she whispered. "I want all of it with you. Then we will, in our own time, in our own way." He kissed her softly. Everything good in my life started the day you slipped me that note. You saved me in more ways than you'll ever know. You saved me right back. You gave me a reason to be brave, a reason to believe in impossible things. They lay there as the sun moved across the floor, talking about their future. The restaurant empire they'd build together, the family they'd create, the life they'd share. All of it felt possible now, felt real in a way it hadn't before. That evening, they finally went to check on Le Nouveau Sol. The restaurant was packed, every table full of people enjoying food that celebrated both their heritages. The staff greeted them with excitement, and the head chef showed them reviews already calling it the most innovative fusion restaurant in Boston. We did it, Thandi breathed, looking around at the space they'd created together. We actually did it. We did, Jae-sung agreed, pulling her close. And this is just one of many things we'll build together. As they stood in their restaurant, surrounded by the scents and sounds of two cultures blending perfectly, Thandi thought about that night 6 months ago, when she'd passed a desperate note to a stranger. She'd had no idea that small act of courage would lead here, to this life, to this love, to this perfect moment of completion. But now, standing beside her husband, in the life they'd built together from chaos and danger and impossible odds, she understood something important. The best things in life weren't planned. They were chosen. Every day, in 1,000 small ways, she and Jae-sung chose each other, and they would keep choosing each other, through whatever came next, for the rest of their lives. Because their forever had just begun, and it was more beautiful than either of them had ever dared to dream. If you enjoyed this love story, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next romance tale. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and whether you believe in love at first sight, like Thandi and Jae-sung. Your support means everything.